Hi, this is Zach McEwen with NEOS, and today we'll talk about the first step in our webcast series on KPIs. In this segment, Brian Harris will cover the top 5 performance management pitfalls and how to avoid them.
Pitfall number 1, lack of focus. Sometimes when we start a project around performance management, we see that a client may have too few metrics, like none, or too many. In particular, one project that I started, the client had an inventory of 500 metrics that they were trying to track. So what we saw when we started asking people about that was that they really didn't look at any of the metrics since they had so many. So what we do is we look at trying to come up with the right number of 12 to 20 vital few key performance indicators. And we line that up with the business strategy. So for example, in this situation, the client's vision was all about how to be world-class in financial services. But what does that really mean? How do you measure it? How do you know that that's true? So we came up with 5 categories of key performance indicators or metrics. There were financial ones, client satisfaction ones, risk, talent management or HR, and strategy. And for each one of those, we came up with a more detailed operational goal. So for example, in the client satisfaction, it was deliver highly available services with projects that meet or exceed the business commitments. And when we wrote that goal in that way, we could then take it the next step and come up with a short list of key performance indicators. Deliver highly available services, well, that's service level agreements, we can measure that. Projects that meet or exceed their business commitments, that's projects on time, projects on budget, we can measure that. And we took all of those, kept it under 20, and came up with a balanced scorecard or a dashboard of KPIs that were very specifically tailored to this organization's business vision and measures. And that then drove the operationalization of the dashboard. Pitfall number 2, qualitative. A big part of making these performance management dashboards work is to make the metrics quantitative. It's too easy if the metrics are qualitative to have them mushy or always show green. And we've seen situations where the dashboard can all be green, yet the executives know that they're getting complaints from customers, from employees, from partners about poor performance. And it's very difficult to rationalize an all green dashboard with all these complaints. So what we recommend and what we work with our clients on is once we have the list of the KPIs, to go through with some external consultant analyst research and come up with business industry specific targets and benchmarks for each one of those quantitative key performance indicators. It's okay to be red, right? The dashboard does not have to all be green, and that's what we see as a culture shift that we have to work through in many of our organizations. Pitfall number 3, credibility. We had a client that put a lot of time, money, and effort into building up a scorecard, a CIO scorecard. And then we were looking at usage of that scorecard, and no one was using it. Why? Well, we did some interviews, and person after person told us, well, I went to the scorecard once, but the data was wrong. It wasn't what I expected. I knew that should have been a 7, and it was a 3. So they stopped using it. Well, so what we found is that the details matter, the definitions matter, and the data that's in the dashboard has to be accurate. The first time that you tell someone that they're red, when they really know that they're green, it's going to be a big problem. Pitfall number 4, perfection. Perfection's a good thing, right? Well, what we find is that perfection has an effect on speed. And what we like to do is we like to get something out there, right? Remember we talked about how many KPIs there should be, something around 12 to 20. I like to think of the rule of a third, a third, a third. So when we look at KPIs, 12 to 20, We usually find that about a third of them, the data is perfectly available, and we can get at the current process baseline for those data sources. About a third of them, there's a proxy. There's something close to that KPI with the data available, and a third of them, the data just doesn't exist. And that's okay. Keep that KPI on the dashboard, and instead of a red, yellow, green, that one's going to be gray, right? So we get the dashboard out there. Most, but not all, of the KPIs have source data. Some of them are gray. The organization can drive its accountability, can drive its behaviors around the KPIs with the data. And over the course of the next several quarters, even the next several years for some of the more difficult KPIs, the organization can build up the capability to measure and baseline the KPIs that are gray, that don't right now have the data sources, but can in the future. Pitfall number 5, efficiency. We've all seen the team of analysts working till 2 in the morning, working till 4 in the morning on the 100-page PowerPoint, the 100-page PDF document that has every possible picture that any possible manager would want to see about the performance of the organization. Chart after chart, page after page, extensively produced and emailed by the early morning hours. We think that's inefficient. And what we rather would see is to use a tool, there are a number of them out there in the marketplace, that brings an ability for the senior executives, the customers of those KPIs, the customers of the dashboard, to look across their dashboard and filter or drill down selectively. If they see a red, they can double click into that red and see whether the issue is in one particular division, one particular business unit, one particular geography, one particular customer segment. They can look over time. They might want to see a chart that has different months or different quarters or different years and see how that lays out. And they can interact with the data, and as they come up with more and more questions, they can drill down or drill across in different ways, in different combinations, ways that would be impossible for that analyst to predict in producing their 100-page PowerPoint or their 100-page document. So what does this do? That gets those analysts out of the role of document production into the role of root cause analysis and really figuring out how to improve the organization's performance. It enables the senior executives in the organization to interact with a pleasing user interface and self-provision to find out the data and the trends on their own in a way that works for them. In a way that if they come up with a slice or a cut of the data, they can see it right away. They don't have to wait a week for a new analysis, a new report to be created. And many of the tools in the marketplace today can be deployed across platform. They can be viewed on a computer in a web browser mode. They can be seen in a tablet view, even on a smartphone or a smaller display. And that ability for an executive to interact with the data wherever he or she wants to, whenever, and in whatever format is really part of the magic of the tools.
Today, Brian Harris has taken you through the top 5 performance management pitfalls and how to avoid them in an effort to position you for success. In our next webcast, we'll take you through the what and the why stages. Thank you for joining us today.